Hi guys! So today, in light of the holiday season and the fact that it's Christmas, we're going to read the Nutcracker. So, let's begin and read this beautiful Christmas book, the Nutcracker. Alright, here's the page. Okay. It's okay. Alright. The Nutcracker and the Mouse King. And this is where we're going to begin. It was Christmas Eve at the Stahlbaum house, and Maria and her younger brother Fritz could hardly contain their excitement. Every year, their parents hosted a wonderful party with music, dancing, and the sweetest selection of holiday treats you ever tasted. But what Maria looked forward to most of all was the arrival of her beloved godfather, her Drosselmeier, and the marvelous gifts he was bound to bring. Her Drosselmeier, you see, was a master clockmaker and ingenious inventor who tinkered away in his workshop all season long to create the most magnificent toys for Maria and the other children. What had he made this year, Maria wondered. Suddenly the parlor door flew open and a funny old man with a scraggly beard and crooked smile hurried in and shook the snow from his flowing cape. At last, Herr Drosselmeier had arrived. As the old man placed a heavy package under the twinkling Christmas tree, the curious children gathered round for a better look. Whatever it was extremely large and exquisitely wrapped, with a beautiful bright red bow to tie it all together.
Oh, yeah, what is that? How is it?
Okay.
What's that?
With their parents' permission, the children tore open the wrapping to discover a glorious mechanical castle with towering spires, a working drawbridge, and the finest regiments of steadfast tin soldiers ever assembled. Her Drosselmeier wound the great key attached to the castle, and the children's eyes grew wide as the soldiers began to move this way and that, marching together in perfect formation, until a tiny toy cannon brought the entire affair to a close with a memorable pop. The children squealed with delight as the guests applauded her Drosselmeier's impressive handiwork. Well done, sir, Dr. Stahlbaum exclaimed. You have outdone yourself again. Take care of yourself and I shall But I will see you next time. Bye. While Fritz frowned through the castle windows at the now perfectly still tin soldier, Herr Drosselmeier reached into his waistcoat pocket and presented Maria with one last gift, a special surprise just for her. Maria gently squeezed the mysterious package through its colorful wrapping, and her face lit up like the candles on the family Christmas tree. It's a doll, isn't it? Herr Drosselmeier said nothing to Maria, as Maria carefully peeled back the paper to find it wasn't a doll at all, but an odd little man, made entirely of wood. Can you guess what it was?
new things from Pungrave, and I'm talking well over a decade ago. So here today I have
Why, it was a nutcracker, of course, and a most peculiar one at that, with long spindly legs and a large wooden head, much too big for its stout little body. Painted bright red like a soldier, he wore shiny black boots and a tall matching hat that sat neatly atop his oversized head. A long fuzzy beard barely concealed 2 rows of huge white teeth, giving the poor champ a rather grim expression. Despite the Nutcracker's usual appearance, Maria loved him at once. Oh, Godfather, he's simply splendid. Really, he is. She hugged her Drosselmeier tight, thanking him for the wonderful gift.
Here is from the plus size range. Everything else is just from the larger end of the spectrum.
Oh, cute girl. What's that?
The website where you can have a look for your lovely self. If you can't see very well, or if lighting is obviously
What's that?
then I will try everything on for you so you can see what it looks like on me. Usually these days I'm more of a
Okay, so next page.
Obviously, a giant Britain beach ball. The first thing here is this dress. That was called a vampirella dress. Beautiful.
Oh, dear, what's that? Cow.
Fritz, however, was hardly impressed. He snatched the Nutcracker from his sister, expecting its enormous white teeth. Splendid indeed! Before Maria could stop him, he jammed the biggest nut he could find between the Nutcracker's open jaws and squeezed the lever with all his might. A dreadful crack echoed through the parlor, and Maria let out a gasp. It wasn't the shell of the nut that had broken, oh no, but the Nutcracker itself. His lower jaw dangled loose and wobbly as Maria seized the poor Nutcracker from her careless brother. Oh, Fritz, she cried, what have you done? Maria desperately searched for her godfather to repair the damage, but the hour was late and her Drosselmeier was nowhere to be found. Wrapping the sad little Nutcracker in a handkerchief, the heartbroken Maria carefully laid him beneath the tree and retired to bed, where she quietly cried herself to sleep.
Oh.
I'm just feeling pleased that this velvet is really quite stretchy. I don't often wear things with splits.
Oh, sorry for that. A little bit sore. Alright. Bathed in the glow of the bright winter moon, Maria tossed and turned in a fitful state. All she could think of was her poor little Nutcracker. Broken and alone under the tree, he must be so frightened with no one to comfort him. She fretted, and on Christmas Eve, no less, unable to stand it any longer, Maria climbed out of bed and crept down the hall to check on him. Maria peeked in the empty parlor, relieved to find the Nutcracker precisely where she had left him, and tiptoed across the room, ever so softly as to not disturb the tiny tin soldiers scattered about. She gazed down at the injured Nutcracker. How lonely he looked with his broken jaw, and yet Maria couldn't be sure. But he seemed to be smiling. Silly girl, she thought, it's just a toy, and toys can't smile. Or can they?
I was a bit unsure because, as I've said 1,000 times, also I've got very wide shoulders, so things that have like a bit of a puff shoulder do tend to add to that. And
How cool.
I think this is almost a wee bit too big. I think the puff sleeve actually looks okay. Now let's have a look at this.
Maria knelt beside the grinning Nutcracker for a closer look. When her ears perked up at the pitter-patter of a thousand tiny feet, and she turned to find twice as many tiny lights twinkling in the darkness. No one lights, eyes small and round and black as night. The beady eyes of angry mice. The floorboards creaked and groaned as they squeezed their fat, furry bodies through every crack and crevice to swarm the parlor floor. A frightful squeak and the mice grew still, a terrible rodent with a razor-sharp crown, caped upon its hideous head, strode through the rakes, expecting his army.
Mesh. This, yeah, I think that's really pretty. And the material it's lovely, soft, quite thick. I do feel like this would be
Get off the tree!
winter. And that is just plain. Back in the world of more casual.
No better.
This way. This is a plus size item. It's a
I'm gonna take your presents back.
Made of this cool sort of
Yeah, if you get on the
He
tree,
startled,
again, you get your
he
presents.
startled Maria, stared in horror at the menacing Mouse King, who hissed and screeched with ghastly delight.
You
When
awake now?
a valiant voice cried out from the dark, to arms, lickety-split. No, he's not. The Nutcracker leapt between Maria and the Mouse King, brandishing a long silver saber as he roused the sleepy soldier. From their slumber, they rose up at once and charged into battle. And oh, what a battle it was. Why, do you want to take him somewhere?
Thank you.
Mice scurried to and fro beneath Maria's feet, gnashing their teeth as they stormed the castle gates. The soldiers inside readied the cannons, scattering the great mouse army with a boisterous boom, but the fight was far from over.
I do feel like these rips could potentially like
Lang clang went the Nutcracker's sword as he fought back the Mouse King's relentless attacks. The ruthless rodents scratched and sliced and bit the Nutcracker until the poor little fellow found himself cornered with nowhere to run. Quick as she could, Maria pulled off her slipper and hurled it to the floor. The frightened mice fled in a flurry of fur, distracting the Mouse King, just long enough for the Nutcracker to deliver the fatal blow.
I'm not seeing it anywhere. Well, I'll just say, Pumpkin stuff is not cheap by any means, but it's very, very exceptional quality. It's great stuff. Like, you won't regret having it.
The soldiers let out a triumphant cheer, but alas, the victory had come at a terrible cost. The Nutcracker stumbled and fell to the floor, and Maria rushed to his side. "My brave little Nutcracker," she sobbed. The battered Nutcracker smiled through his crooked jaw one last time before his eyes grew dark and heavy, just as the clock struck midnight. At once, the room began to swirl around Maria, and the Nutcracker arose to his feet, only he wasn't a Nutcracker anymore, but a handsome young prince, dressed in a regal red coat, trimmed with the finest gold threads that she had ever laid eyes on. The grateful prince bowed and handed Maria her slipper. "Dear lady," he said, "your courage has broken the Mouse King's curse, and I am whole again. Allow me to repay your kindness with a visit to my kingdom, where I shall show you the most wondrous things imaginable." Okay, no sooner had Maria taken the prince's hand than the walls of the parlor melted away to reveal an endless white snowfall for as far as the eye could see. A great silver sleigh appeared before them, and Maria climbed aboard next to the prince. With a wave of his hand, the sleigh took to the sky, higher and higher, until her house was but a distant memory, and the village below. Hold on a minute.
Around the waist and lengthwise and armwise and stuff, but as many things does not fit a a lot of things don't put me across the chest, and I'm absolutely troubled. So I'm really, really hoping that once I'm no longer pregnant and have maybe lost a bit of weight, that I will be able to wear this lovely maxi dress. I can see myself looking solemn and melancholy and sitting around wearing it. That's what I want to do.
The prince gave a whistle. Below was scarcely bigger. Hold on. Was sleigh appeared before them, and Maria climbed aboard next to the prince. With a wave of his hand, the sleigh took to the sky, higher and higher, until her house was but a distant memory in the village. Below was scarcely bigger than the one of her Drosselmeiler's playthings. As tiny snowflakes fell around, Maria stuck out her tongue. Delighted to discover they tasted of sugar. The prince gave a whistle and set down the sleigh in a magical meadow that sparkled and shimmered with all the colors of Christmas. At last they had arrived in the land of sweets.
Not an H cup, basically. I think the cups are cute. They work with these 3 buttons. Piece, a short skirt part underneath, and the rest is like wonderful, billowy, black swoosh with a split down one side. Oh, it's so nice. Here's the model. Looking perfect. Second to last. I've actually wanted this for ages.
Go lay down, Larry.
Maria could hardly believe her eyes. Everything was made of cookies, cakes, and confections of all shapes and sizes. There were gingerbread mountains with buttercream peaks and a peppermint forest of candy cane trees. In no time at all, they had come to a glorious marzipan palace that glittered with gumdrops and jelly bean jewels. They were greeted at once by the sugar plum fairy, who welcomed them with warm, steaming mugs of piping hot cocoa. Upon learning of her part in the Mouse King's defeat, the sugar plum fairy crowned Maria an honorary princess and declared a royal feast to celebrate the prince's safe return.
Unfortunately, really doesn't sit on me the way it's supposed to.
Beautiful.
It's supposed to be quite off the shoulder-ish, but like my wide shoulders will not allow for that. So it sits up a little bit strange. These sleeves are so pretty. The pointy parts of the
Okay, so with a wave of her wand, trumpets blurred throughout the palace. As one by one the good people of the kingdom presented Princess Maria with an endless assortment of mouth-watering treats from every corner of the land of sweets. There were bare bushels of butterscotch and bonbons galore, trays filled with tea cakes and toffee and more, from hazelnut truffles to Turkish delights. She savored the taste of each scrumptious bite. When Maria had eaten her fill, the royal musicians began to play a lovely Christmas waltz. The prince extended his hand with a bow. "Would you do to me the honor, dear lady?" Maria replied with a courtesy, and together they danced without a care in the world.
on. I really like it. I guess it is nice to throw a wee bit of colour every now and then. So I do feel like this would be quite nice for a date. Nice for a date. We should go on more dates.
Okay.
Honestly, this is all I like. Would you be looking at the internet? It's cool, right? I honestly thought the neckline would be a bit wider because the model is very petite and the picture.
As they twirled and turned and twirled some more, a strange sensation came over Maria. Perhaps she was sleepy from too many sweets, but they seemed to be floating high in the air. Clutching the prince, Maria gazed down on a distant palace to see the sugar plum fairy waving goodbye. Suddenly her head grew dizzy, as if in a dream, and she felt herself falling from an immense height. Maria awoke with a jolt, safe in her bed. Sunlight sparkled through the frosted window panes. Christmas morning had come at last. But where was her precious Nutcracker? She leapt out of bed and raced to the parlor, only to find an empty handkerchief where she had laid the broken Nutcracker the night before.
Irregular.
Maria's heart sank in despair, but then Fritz burst in from the kitchen, smelling of freshly baked cinnamon buns. "Merry Christmas, Maria," he pulled something from behind his back and handed it to his sister. Can you guess what it was? Why, it was a nutcracker. Of course, Maria's nutcracker, as noble and handsome and regal as ever. His crooked mouth mended with teeth, straight and white, as she cradled the nutcracker tight in her arms. Maria couldn't be sure, but he seemed to be smiling, because he was. The end.
I'm looking forward to making fashion videos again. I have a normal shaped body, as long as it doesn't have this giant baby in it, because my baby is giant. 1,000 thank you again so much to Contract with the end. I feel absolutely well and amazing I've lost me.
And this is the end of the Nutcracker book. And I hope you all liked and enjoyed this book, and you have a wonderful Christmas. Bye, guys.
This isn't just